Hello, and welcome to Transformations People of God, Week 4. This week we are talking about men and women and work. Essentially, we're going to talk about the ways that society puts pressure and rules on what it means to be a man or a woman or a boy or a girl or a person that keep us in these boxes and keep us from really experiencing all of these parts of ourselves that maybe seem off limits because they are more boyish or girlish than society accepts of us. We see throughout the Bible that there are women that are lifted up and celebrated as people of God, but often it's not nearly as much as when we talk about men. But one thing that might be interesting for you to know is that as early Christians were interpreting and misinterpreting the Bible, they changed some female names of people who were women to sound male. And this was for lots of reasons. Maybe it was because of misinterpretations of the text, but also we could see that it could have been pressure from society to make the Bible feel more approachable, because society at the time of when the Bible was written was very much patriarchal, which means it was male-centered. That men were to be the only ones that were to be lifted up and to be celebrated as people of God, because women had their own role and it was to be quiet and reserved and to take care of the house. We experience pressures like this today. Girls are expected to be skinny and quiet and play hard to get. Women are expected to be calm and gentle, to not be abrasive, to not be forceful. And boys are expected to be macho, to not be skinny, to not cry, and to not ever be vulnerable. And you might have experienced these pressures within your friend groups or at your school. But God has a different vision in mind for us. In fact, there are no rules to God. You and I together can break these rules of society that put us in these boxes that keep us from really experiencing the fullness of our personhood. For me, I know that there are a lot of things that I like about being a girl, and a lot of things that I identify with and that are part of my character. Like I would say, I would consider myself a good listener. And often that is something that seems like it is in the girl category. I also like dressing up and wearing makeup and being sort of expressive in a feminine way. Those things are part of my personality and my character that are so true about me that don't belong to society's box of what it means to be a girl, even though those are things that I like and that I identify with. But the same is true in the opposite way, that there are characteristics about myself that typically seem more boyish or masculine. I'm assertive, I'm athletic, I'm comfortable leading, I'm comfortable being bold and expressive. And these are things that maybe society puts in the boy box. These are things that society expects boys to do, but not girls. And so there are pieces of my personality that are reflected both in these pressures of being a girl and a boy. And what that tells me is that these boxes don't really matter, because the fullness of myself cannot be just defined by one gender or another. Man, it's so good to hear, because you and I have the special job as Christians of living into this new way of being, of practicing what it's like to live in God's vision of us as people who don't have to be conformed to the sin of the world that tells us who and what and how we should be. God has bigger plans in mind for us. God knows you from the very moment that you were born. Even before, in Psalms, we see that God was present as your mother's womb, as you were growing in your mother's belly. God was forming you from the very beginning and putting all of these things into you that don't belong into society's expectations of boys and girls. There's more to you than what society could ever have expected from you. And that's cool, dudes. That's really cool, because that means we can not have to feel pressured by these expectations, and that we can feel free to really, really explore ourselves and not be shy about experiencing crying as a boy, because we know that, man, life is hard and that it's worth crying about. We can know as girls that, man, it's nice to be gentle and good listeners, and we can, be really good friends in that way. But also, there's a time to scream and to be bold and to lead and to step up. Man, these rules don't really fit us, because God had bigger things in mind for you when He made you. My good friends, let's do this for each other. Let's set expectations for ourselves that are more in line with these grace goggles, these God goggles that we can put on. You and I can treat each other with total acceptance and know that whatever comes out of us as we experience ourselves is something that is so holy and so godly and way more true than any other way of seeing things that comes from society. Frankly, we've been programmed. From the very, very beginning of our lives, we get these messages about what it means to be a girl and a boy. And man, they're not working for us, because we see the truth of it, and that things are way more complicated. So, in conclusion, God put all these characteristics, all these gifts, all these talents in you for you to get to know and explore. They were gifts to you. And when we feel tied to society's expectations of us, it makes us shy from exploring those ways that we can be a more full version of ourselves. My friends, it's going to be good. And you and I are going to live into a community that really believes that we are all the same, that we all have emotions and struggles and insecurities and doubts and fears, and that we all have special gifts and talents and unique selves that really offer the team, our collective team, something bigger and more beautiful than if we were to be confined to our boxes. That's our message for this week. I can't wait to talk to you on Zoom, and I will see you soon.